and welcome to Around the Best Town. I'm your host, Mayor John McCormick, and today we're taking our show on the road, and we're at Dillon Music on Fulton Street in Woodbridge, and our guest today is Steve Dillon. Steve, welcome to Around the Best Town.
Thank you, Mayor.
So let me start with you before we get into our special guest later on. And our special guest is actually not a person, it's an instrument, but we'll get into that. But you are actually a very famous person. I mean, in terms of your impact on the music world, I'll let you explain it, but you've had people all over the world know you. Musicians all over the world know you because of your business in repairing instruments, selling instruments, training people on instruments. You are a worldwide known person in the field of, particularly, I guess, brass instruments and others. Give me a minute and tell me about your history.
Well, most of the time I like to tell people I'm the idiot savant of brass. Most people drop the savant. Dillon Music...
I'll do the comedy around here, by the way.
Dillon Music started in 1992, but I've really been in the business all my life. I started hustling horns in junior high school.
Buying and selling?
Buying and selling. Junior high school, college.
Do you play? First, do you
trombone.
play?
I trained on trombone. I have a degree in music education from Rutgers University.
Okay.
I started here in 1992.
But go back to buying and selling horns. How did that happen?
I don't know. I just started doing it. In junior high school, I took 2 clarinets, traded them for a tuba, took a tuba, traded them for 2 tubas, and it just went on from there.
Really?
Yeah. My family does have a background in music. My 6th great-grandfather, that's great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, in 1776 signed 3-year papers to be the fifer of the 2nd Virginia Regiment. Thus, we say the Dillon Music, bringing American music since 1776.
Oh, wow.
So I had fifers and drummers all through the years. My great-grandfather was a country fiddler up in the mountains of West Virginia. So music is in the blood, so to speak. We opened here in Woodbridge in 1992, and the reason I picked Woodbridge, New Jersey is everybody wanted me to be in New York, and I said, no, New York's too expensive. Woodbridge, New Jersey is the crossroads of everything. Everything meets in Woodbridge, New Jersey. The Turnpike, the Parkway, Route 9, Route 1, everything.
2735, 27440. I got this shtick down. I do it all the time.
Everything. And the train station is 2 blocks away, and we have a tremendous amount of people who get off the train. They go up. They used to go to the old chamber building. Now they go to the eyeglass place and say, "Where's Dillon Music?"
Right.
And they all come down here to see us. So that's why I'm here, and that's why I've been here since '92.
And I've seen you a lot of times. We go to Biddings a lot for lunch because it's right next to Town Hall. And you've had people. I've met people with you having lunch from Japan, from Germany, from England, from every place.
They come all over the world here. We're a destination. One day we had a bus pull up with a brass band from Wales. Just recently we had another bus pull up. It was a group of dealers from Japan who Yamaha sponsored a contest. They won the contest to go to New York, and they said, we want to go to Dillon Music. So they came out here. 25 dealers from Japan came out here to visit us.
And then we get the benefit of them shopping in our downtown, going to our restaurants, staying in our hotels is wonderful for the town economy.
Correct.
Okay, so take me past that now. You open up the shop and take me to the next step. How did you develop into becoming so famous?
Well, we do we're a specialty shop. I usually say to people, if you don't know where we are, you don't belong here. So, we're off the beaten path, and we do a special thing. We deal in high-end brass and woodwinds. That's all we deal in. We don't deal in guitars, we don't deal in drums, we don't deal in any of that. So we really specialize. So a lot of people come from all over the world. First off, as you can see, the normal music store doesn't have this much brass and woodwinds in it. So we really stock heavy with it. So they come to get that experience.
So how did you get to the point where somebody from Germany said, I got to go to Dillon Music? How did you grow? How did you advertise? How did you build your business?
Well, I've always been international, even before the internet. I was dealing in Japan, and they just got to know me. I don't know how. I just got around because everybody said, you need it? Go to Dillon. He'll have it. Go to Dillon. He'll have it. You need to get that? Go to Dillon. He'll have it. And it just happened. Word of mouth is a great advertisement. Then when the internet came in, we could put things up online. I used to send out lists in the old days. You made a list, you send it out to a mailing list. Now I don't have to do that. We put it online and they buy.
So you probably haven't spent, other than that, you probably haven't spent money on formal advertising in a long time.
No.
You don't need
I
to.
mean, we do Facebook, direct Facebook stuff, but
no actual, mailing, no brochures.
No.
The business just comes to you.
It comes to me. That doesn't mean I don't have to work at it. We have to have the right mix of stuff, and we have to continue to offer something that's good to our clients. But as time has come on, the guest who you'll see today gave me a lot of PR, more than I could ever afford to buy.
How many people work for you now?
18.
18 people work here in this building downtown Woodbridge.
That's correct. And every day we go out to lunch.
Right.
Most of my crew goes out to lunch every day. We buy, I really do believe in buy local. And you'll see me walk up and down the street every day.
I do.
I mean, that's what I do. I go out and walk. Now, my wife, who just retired as a Woodbridge teacher, 30 years in Woodbridge Township, she's here 3 days a week, not here today. But she's uptown.
And she's a music teacher, right?
Yep, she was a music teacher at 4 and 5, 26, and I forget the other one.
So how'd you meet her? Through your business?
No, we met in a band, Carteret American Legion Marching Band. We met.
Obviously. What else do you do?
Yeah.
All right, so you're married for how long?
31 years this year.
Wow, terrific. So you got the same interests because she teaches, and does she play too?
Yeah, she was a trumpet player.
Wow, very interesting. Who's the most famous person that, like I wouldn't know somebody in the German Philharmonic, but who's the most famous person?
You know Doc Severinsen?
Yeah, that's what I'm driving at.
Who's Doc Severinsen's been in. Herb Alpert. I used to do business with Herb Alpert. Yeah. Matter of fact, the funny thing with him is when I got a phone call one day. Yes, this is Mr. Alpert's secretary. Could you hold, please? I'm going to patch you into his plane.
To his plane.
He made a lot of money with Tijuana Brass.
Yeah.
So
all right.
we get that. Matter of fact, there's a gentleman, Frank Green, who's in the next room, who was the trumpet player from the Letterman Band.
Okay.
So we see a lot of people from all over the world, that type. Like you said, you wouldn't know somebody from the London Philharmonic or anything, but, a lot of the people we deal with are people you've heard. A lot of our customers, the trumpet section from the Tonys, those are people we deal with. New York Philharmonic, Metropolitan Opera Orchestra, Saturday Night Live Band. If you want Saturday Night Live, Steve Touray, the trombone player, customer for years.
Okay. And is there anybody around that is like a Dillon music in another part of the country or another part of the world, or is it you?
Just had a gentleman come in who works for one of the manufacturers. He had never been in here. He looked around. He's been all over the world. He goes, there's no place like this around.
Because of the selection?
Well, it's a selection, just what we do. You can see 100 used trombones on the wall right here.
Are these are all for sale here?
Everything's for sale in here.
All right. So
except my wife, and she's not here right now.
Right. So this is a gallery of items that people can purchase. And what percentage of your business is selling? What percent is repairing?
Repairing is a small part, though. We do a lot of repairing. See, a repairman can only do as much as he can do in an 8-hour day. A salesman can sell 5 trumpets in an hour, 10 trumpets in an hour, 20, 30, 40, depends. But a repairman, it's a manual labor, so how much does it do? Maybe 10%, if that.
Okay. So the bottom line is that anybody anywhere in the world that's interested in brass or woodwinds,
they come here.
They come here. Anybody in any band,
a lot of times
orchestra,
they come here.
Anybody, anywhere, knows Steve Dillon, knows Dillon.
They might not know me. I'm very humble. I don't like to be out in front all the time. They go, oh, Dillon music? I've been on a cruise, and a trumpet player said, hey, I know you from someplace. I'm Steve Dillon. Yeah. Oh, my God, it's Steve.
All right, cool. All right, give me a little preview. We're going to take a break in a minute, but give me a little preview about our inanimate guest next door that's visiting you now, the Harvard Tuba.
Well, what the Harvard Tuba is this. The Harvard Tuba, and let me give you a little background.
Sure.
We were contacted by Harvard University about 3 years ago. They have this tuba that they wanted restored. And they actually had us come up there, and we looked at it, and we discussed it. They had us put in a bid on it. They wanted to send it out for bid. It's been owned by the Harvard University Band since 1948. So we went up there, we came back, we discussed it. It was a very large restoration project, and you'll see why it was very large.
Because it's very large.
It's very large. But we did get the bid. Not because we were the lowest, because they felt that we would respect it, and look to do what they wanted to do about it. They didn't want a regular way, like with an automobile, take it all apart and polish everything and everything look brand new. They wanted a conservation of the instrument. They wanted the instrument, the dents taken out and everything, but they didn't want it to look brand new.
Okay.
Which can happen sometimes when they do this stuff. So we got the instrument down here, we started work on it. But a little history on the instrument, because my technician Matthew can talk about, he was the lead guy on the restoration project. He can talk about the restoration. I'll talk a little bit about the history. The instrument was made for the 1889 Paris Exposition. Now, the 1889 Paris Exposition was the exposition of metal. It premiered the Eiffel Tower. And this instrument was made by the Besson Company, Fontaine Besson, in England. Besson owned 2 factories, one in Paris and one in England, but the English factory could be the one that took on the big project of making this. They made a 7-foot tuba, basically what it is. And what they did, they had it, it was not displayed with the musical instruments. It was displayed in a separate part of the exposition in basically what they would call a press place, where the press gathered. And what it was on a 7-foot pedestal, the tuba being 7 feet, so it stood 14 feet in the air. It had a battery of drums around it. It had bunting from the ceiling, and it had hanging from the ceiling on wires musical instruments, making it look like it was being blown out of the bell. So after the exposition was over, it was shipped over here to New York. And press releases says when it came to New York, it was Carl Fischer Music Publishers in Manhattan who basically took possession of it. They actually paraded it around the streets of Manhattan. People went crazy for the instrument. Then around and what they did is they put it in their window as a big draw. And it was called the place with the big bass. Then in around 1891, a very famous bandmaster, an Irish-American bandmaster, matter of fact, a superstar, named Patrick Gilmore. Gilmore was a bandmaster during the Civil War, well known amongst the nation. He was a superstar. Lincoln knew him, Grant knew him, everybody knew him. Matter of fact, Madison Square Garden, the old Madison Square Garden was not called Madison Square Garden, it was called Gilmore's Garden. Gilmore sent a tremendous amount of money back to Ireland for Irish relief from the famine. He has the instrument. We have a lithograph of Gilmore's Band of 100 with the instrument in it, where he probably tried to use it. It is usable, but it's so massive that you wouldn't want to carry it around. After that, it was put in the window of Carl Fischer until 1912, when they had a bigger tuba made, which if you Google large tuba Carl Fischer New York Times, an interview with me and the New York Times with the bigger tuba up at Carl Fischer, you'll be able to see. That tuba is not 100% playable. This is. At that point, they sent it up to Boston, put it in their Carl Fischer store in Boston, and every year, Harvard used to rent it just to use it as a football game. Mm-hmm. They have a giant bass drum, and then they would bring this out. Well, 1948, they rented it, and when they were done with it for the weekend, one of the band members looked at the receipt and said, "Hey, wait a minute, this isn't a rental receipt, this is a sales receipt." They went back to the store and the clerk said, keep it. So they've had it at Harvard since 1948. It's become part of their culture now.
Is it safe to say it's the most famous playable tuba in the world?
I would safe to say that. Yes, I would. It's been seen on more things than every Harvard alumni, and how many people of high dollar value has gone to Harvard.
Exactly.
And they know this instrument. Now they're...
well, let's take a break now.
Well, wait 1 second.
Okay, go ahead.
They wanted it restored because in October is the 100th anniversary of the Harvard University Band.
Perfect.
And it's going to be played there.
And that's why they're fixing it up, and that's why it's
Correct.
here. Okay, well, let's take a break. We'll go visit Matt, and we'll go visit the special guest.
Perfect.
We'll be right back, folks. Welcome back to Around the Best Town. John McCormick and Steve Dillon. And we're joined by Matt Walters, a low brass specialist for Dillon Music, and the man known worldwide as the Tuba Whisperer. And Matt, has been your job to oversee the restoration of this beautiful piece of equipment. Tell me about it.
Well, a priceless instrument like this, a one of a kind, The number one concern was to maintain its integrity. So I had to be very conservative about everything I did and how I approached it. Basically, I treated it, when I took it apart to fix the major dents, I treated it like a giant jigsaw puzzle. I took it apart from the inside out using the outer edges as a reference point so I could put it back together in the same spot. So I worked from the inside out and just kept going out, and the giant bell was the last big project, the last hurdle that had to be mastered.
So you fixed the actual, you said with the dents, got that. What about the interior? What do you do to the interior that involves, the piece, the technicalities of it, not just the look?
Okay, so basically burnishing is smashing between two pieces of metal. So we burnished, pushed out the dents. I used special round barrel-shaped objects to bring flattened areas back into round. This large bow here, a third of it was caved in. There was a branch in the back you don't quite see. That was caved halfway in. So it became a job just to get it back to round. And then once it was in shape of like a round tube, I had to get everything to go right back in the same spot. So I basically manhandle, you have a barrel, something, and you push the dents up. But then I have another machine, very similar to what a car fanatic would know as an English wheel. And the outside of the barrel is shaped concave, one's convex, one's concave. And I just burnish it and I smash things into round shape. And that's it. That's basically how you do the individual branches. The bigger curved parts, you push them up on a ball and use a vise, and you mount a ball and a horseshoe-shaped object, and you just push them into shape. And you do everything on a smaller scale for the smaller knuckles. That's basically what I did. It just took it down one thing at a time.
How long did it take you to fix this?
We worked on this off and on since February, so it would be about 4 months. The problem is, there are a lot of people depending upon having their instruments maintained so they can earn a living or go to college. So I couldn't devote my 100% attention because I needed to.
You got a business to run.
You got a business to run.
But we also had to have special tools made for it, so we were waiting for those tools to come in. He could only do certain things till the tools came in. They made special tools. One of our manufacturers, Faree's Tools, made some special tools for us to work on. This is very. You don't work on something this size every day, so our equipment wasn't set up for it, so we had to have special things to make.
Our equipment could not handle the middle sections. So without these special tools, the very middle sections of these two largest branches, I couldn't get to. So that worked out well. I was working on the smaller stuff first. Finally, the custom-made tools showed up, and we were able to use them and bring the rest of the horn back to life.
Is this the largest piece of equipment you've ever worked on?
Yeah. Well, I used to be an aircraft mechanic. I've worked
All right. Let me go backwards. Is this the largest musical instrument you've ever worked on?
Yes, this is the largest musical instrument I've ever repaired.
All right, so go back to the mechanic thing. That's how you started your career?
Yes, I love music and I love machines, and so what a great way to make a living. I get to work at a music store repairing musical instruments.
So how'd you go from aircraft mechanic to, what was the first step you took?
I met Mr. Dillon while I was an aircraft mechanic, and we hit it off. I had some instruments I wanted to sell, and I sold them on consignment. He treated me better than some other shops did, and I liked dealing with him as a customer to start with. And he must have liked me because he asked me to come work for him, and I did.
Matt's been here 25 years.
25 years.
All right,
now.
so the day one, do you know anything about fixing musical instruments day one, or you just took a job and learned it?
I did know some things. I also grew up around farms, so you had to be mechanically inclined, and I owned my own tubas. So I was always able to maintain.
Oh, that's what I'm driving at. Okay.
Yes, my own instruments I maintained. And the job where I had previously, when I was living in West Virginia, in my spare time, would hang out with the local repair shop. And that's when I grew up. You visit someone else at a farm, they don't stop working. If they're shelling peas, you sit down, you shell peas. If they're chopping lumber, you jump in, you chop lumber while you're visiting. So during the afternoon,
remind me never to visit a farm.
Work's got to be done. And so when I'd visit my buddy down in West Virginia, I'd jump right in, and whatever little chores he want done, I would do. And he was surprised how much I knew about the rotary valves and things like that, and I wasn't afraid to get my hands dirty. And then in exchange, he started showing me how to do some soldering and some dent work. And then, like I say, I met Mr. Dillon, and we hit it off well. And 25 years later, I'm still here.
So he walks in the door, you meet him, you talk to him, and suddenly he becomes your
well,
whisperer.
It was a year he came in, and then he did apprentice here, basically a lot of the stuff. We had him working on trumpets. He had to do trumpet overhauls before he got into the bighorns, but then he worked right into it quickly. I mean, a lot of our people have been trained here. The only one who hasn't been is Andrea, who's a Woodbridge native, and Andrea was the first female to go through the Dawn and Kirshner School for Musical Instrument Repair, first female who did both brass and woodwinds.
Okay, very good.
And she's, like I said, she's a Woodbridge native.
Well, let's show you a picture, folks, of what this instrument looked like when it came in, what it looks like now. And it's standing up in this picture. You see Steve, who's 6'1" next to it, so you can see just how really big this piece of equipment is. So one of the questions I had, too, is that the piece of equipment got kind of damaged and beat up, and rumor has it had to do with a fight in a football game. What do you know about that?
Well, there's a couple different stories. First off, the instrument is massive, so it's easy to smash, easy to get dented. But the story you're referring to is the Dartmouth Harvard game of 1957, where after the game, see, Harvard has a giant bass drum, and they call it Big Bertha. And that is one of their pride and joys, along with this. Well, the Dartmouth fraternity came down to try and steal the bass drum. The band members surrounded the bass drum with their instruments, and a fight started. Instruments got damaged, this being one of them. Actually, I talked to one of the guys at Harvard today. He says, I know one of the guys who said, I clocked one of them damn Dartmouth guys. He said, but that's how these things get smashed.
I would have loved to have seen that, a bunch of band members in a fist fight. I mean, what could that possibly be like? You know, they're passive, they're meek, they're mild, they're, you know, talented musicians. They're not fighters. But the Dartmouth band and the Harvard band went at it. What do you remember? What do you know about that?
Well, another thing I was going to point out is because this horn's so big, it was very popular to have pictures of somebody inside the bell of the horn. And so when you have somebody inside the horn, there's a good story. One famous young lady did this, and she got stuck. So when they had to lay down the horn to get her out, of course, that was just too much weight on the bell. The bell got folded closed. So, yeah, it's...
So there's a lot of great stories with this tuba.
And I hope for another 100 years of good stories after this.
Now I just have one basic question left, I think, and that is, can somebody play this instrument?
Absolutely. It's very hard to play, and it's hard to play. You can't play it well because it's so hard to control, but it is absolutely playable. I have played it many times.
And how many people have to hold it while somebody else plays it?
Yes, definitely. Once it's upright, somebody has to steady it. And the way it was originally built, a normal person could not reach from the edge of the mouthpiece. Where's Mr. Dillon, the mouthpiece? Put that mouthpiece in there. A normal person could not reach from the edge of the mouthpiece and then operate the valves. So one of the things we did was we made a modification so that a standard tuba mouthpiece could fit.
So you can come around and play it like this.
You can stand much closer and
you guys are pretty clever.
Mm-hmm.
You guys actually know what you're doing.
Somewhat.
So tell me again about Harvard. This is an anniversary, and it's a big deal to them to have this piece of equipment.
This year is in October. They will be celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Harvard University Band. This being their kind of mascot now, they will premiere this at it. They're getting, the rumors have it right now that Mike Roylance, the principal tuba of the Boston Symphony, will be doing a piece on it for the Harvard band. That's why they want it back and cleaned up and looking good for their 100th anniversary.
Is there anybody alive who literally played this back in the day?
No, because of the age of it. No, the instrument has, it has at Harvard, yes. There has been people.
Could an alumni?
Yes, there are alumni who have played on it, yes. We have recordings online.
And there's a chance they'd come to the anniversary party and say,
absolutely.
And say, there's my baby.
Absolutely.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. All right, well, let's close up. Steve Dillon, thank you very much. Matt Walters, thank you very much. It's been great to visit you here in Dillon Music.
It's our pleasure.
Thanks for everything you do for our town. You're a great corporate citizen. You donate your time, you donate your efforts, you donate your resources, and it's fantastic having you in town. So thank you for watching Around the Best Town.